you for so much for joining us today. We're going to get started to respect everybody's time. My name is Lynette Whiteman, and I serve as the Grants Director and Senior Advisor for Congressman Andy Kim. So glad you could join us today. This is a joint webinar from the offices of Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Frank Pallone, and Andy Kim for this important and very timely webinar. As New Jersey enters its cold winter months, our goal today is to provide you with information about housing and utility assistance and the many resources that are available. At the end of the program, we will be joined by additional panelists, Malika Morris, Deputy Director for the Department of Human Services in Burlington County, and Maura Sanders, Chief Counsel, Legal Services of New Jersey. And I will be introducing our panelists as we go along. This webinar will be recorded, and everyone who's on today and everyone who registered will be getting an email with the link and the resources and all the information you need for it. So before we get too far down the road, it is my true honor to introduce Representative Frank Pallone, who represents the 6th Congressional District in New Jersey. So Representative Pallone.
Thank you so much. And let me start by thanking both of my colleagues, Andy Kim and Bonnie Watson-Coleman, for working with me and our staff to coordinate this much needed webinar. And I also want to thank our presenters for taking the time to join us here. Many of these programs, which are funded in whole and part by federal funds, are really important to expanding housing access and making life more affordable for New Jersey families. And we're always trying to do what we can to make life more affordable. Of course, in New Jersey, we know in particular, because it's the most densely populated state, that demand for housing is high, and many are struggling to access housing that's both safe and affordable. And I stress both safe and affordable. There was a 2020 study released by Rutgers University that found that more than 1 in 10 New Jerseyans do not have a steady place to live or worried about losing their home. And of course, COVID, which really shook the economy, and the recent lifting of eviction moratoriums have only made the situation worse, frankly. But we're committed to try to see what we can do to help address some of these affordability issues. And of course, in Washington, to provide or to increase funding for the various programs that I'm going to be talking about and that the presenters are going to be talking about today, such as the Housing Voucher Program, rental assistance, housing counseling, and community development block grants, which will allow for affordable housing development. So I can't stress that the most important thing that we can do as legislators is increase funding for these programs so more and more people have access to them. In addition, I wanted to mention that in December, the Veterans Credit Act, which I authored, was signed into law as part of the 2023 spending bill. And this is a piece of legislation that tries to end veterans' homelessness and housing instability for veterans by providing credit and financial counseling, which is an unmet need for a lot of homeless veterans. So again, stress that housing needs to be more, not only affordable, but also safe. And that's another reason that I champion this $15 billion in funding in the bipartisan infrastructure bill that we passed a couple of years ago to make sure all residences get drinking water that's not tainted by lead, old pipes, or chemicals like PFAS. On Friday, the Biden administration announced that New Jersey would be part of a pilot program to accelerate assistance to underserved communities to replace old lead service lines, which people still complain to me as a major problem in a lot of the housing, both public and private, that we're dealing with here. Also, the bipartisan infrastructure bill includes $10 billion for new PFAS program to equitably remove PFAS. PFAS is like a forever chemical, a toxic chemical that gets into the water. There's also a new affordability program I champion that's called the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program to help residents pay their water and wastewater bills. I think a lot of you are familiar with LIHEAP, which is the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which helps people pay for their energy bills. That's been around for a while. But this new program is like LIHEAP, but for water bills. So if you want to apply for this program, you can call the state's Department of Community Affairs hotline or apply via the online DCA portal. And of course, more information is available at our offices. And then speaking of energy bills, last year Congress passed historic legislation called the Inflation Reduction Act to fight the climate crisis. And part of the new law is making it more affordable for homeowners and landlords to make residential energy efficiency upgrades. So if you're in a situation where you want to improve your home's energy efficiency, or have to replace your boiler, for example, there are federal rebates or tax credits to help save on these purchases. So look, we all want, myself, Bonnie, Andy, we all want to do everything we can to work in Congress to provide funds and resources to access safe and affordable housing. So I just hope that you can find this webinar useful. I certainly encourage all of you who reside in my district to reach out to my staff and to the contacts the presenters will provide. So we have two offices, I'll mention them, in New Brunswick. You can reach our office at 732-249-8892, or in Long Branch for Monmouth County at 732-571-1140. And again, please stay in touch, and thank you again for joining us. I'm going to go back to a committee hearing now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Congressman Pallone. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate everything that you do for New Jersey. So the other Congress people are going to be joining us. They're all very, very busy today. So they're going to be jumping on as we do, and we'll go to them as they jump on. But I want to go back to who our amazing panelists are today, just to let you know what we have coming up. We're going to be joined by representatives from organizations such as the U.S. Housing and Urban Development, New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, New Jersey Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, and the New Jersey Department of Human Services. So for those of you who might have joined late, let me repeat. This webinar is going to be recorded. Everyone will get a link to it after the end of the webinar. And we are going to include all the contact information for the congressional offices, for our panelists, for those who are joining us for the Q&A. So you don't have to worry about writing all that down as we go along. It is really my pleasure now to introduce our first panelist, who's going to start us off. And then, as I said, the Congress people will join and we'll go to them as they
Hey,
join.
Lynette, hey,
Oh,
this is Andy. Can you mind if I jump in first?
Sorry. Yep, I didn't see you join.
I just assumed you were just ignoring me there, Lynette. So
Well,
it's all right. I get it.
So yeah.
I'm a second child syndrome.
Yeah, there you go.
But
Sorry about
look, thanks everybody. This is Andy Kim. Wanted to just say thank you for joining up, and of course, thank you to Frank and Bonnie and your teams for collaborating on this. First of all, I just want to say, look, I know folks that are seeking this type of support, and some of the people that might be listening to this and watching this webinar later. I know you guys are probably have some tough challenges right now. There are a lot of folks in our community that are struggling, and that's exactly why we're doing this. And I hope you feel this sense and take away from this that you're not alone, and that there are people, certainly my team and Bonnie and Frank's and others out there that are trying to make sure we're doing everything we can to be able to connect you to resources and try to figure out how to get you on more stable ground. My parents, as they were growing up, they had a lot of challenges when it came to housing, and it's my very first job that I ever worked on was working for a coalition for the homeless and trying to address these issues of make sure people have a roof over their head. I know last year my office helped work with Burlington County and helped set up a housing fair, and it was very successful, but insofar as saying that there were a lot of people that came, a lot of people that were struggling, a lot of people that had needs. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that kind of connection going, trying to do everything we can to be able to support those that could use a little helping hand right now and try to figure out what comes next. We're going to keep doing this on every level. From the legislative wins that we're trying to do, I was able to secure $3 million to be able to start that process to be able to have a homeless shelter in Burlington County, and other things that we do to try to make sure that we have needs and resources for everyone. And for the professionals that are on here, for the panelists, just thank you for just continuing to help support folks and look out for them, and just anything I can do to to make sure that we're helping. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me and Lynette and my team. We stand by to help in every way we can. So I'm glad that we're doing this. I just wanted to take a few minutes to just say thank you, and to folks that need some help, just for them to feel reassured that we're standing by and we're going to be there with you. So thanks everybody. And I see Bonnie's jumped on. I always say I'm just the opening act to Bonnie Watson Coleman. So Bonnie, thanks so much for joining up.
Thank you, Congressman Kim. And we will go to Congresswoman Watson Coleman now. So thank you. You're on mute, I believe.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Andy. Thank you. Thank you for coordinating our getting together here. And thank you to all the representatives from the various offices, whether or not it's a state office or a federal office. Thank you for being willing to share information that's so vitally important to our communities. You know, we're one of the wealthiest countries in the nation. I used to say the wealthiest, but God, I have no idea anymore. But what I do know is that everyone has a right to decent sheltering. Everyone has a right to access affordable, decent, adequate housing. And the work that we do is to ensure that. My career in public service, from the very first job of working for the Division on Civil Rights and enforcing the law against discrimination, and even heading up the unit that dealt with access to housing, from my going to the Department of Community Affairs and dealing with special housing needs for those who have been deinstitutionalized, has been a very important part of my career. Working in the legislature in the state of New Jersey, and working with the then speaker to pass A500, which is the housing law in the state of New Jersey as it relates to accessible, affordable, and diverse housing for those at all income ranges that are in need. That was an important part of the work that I did. And down here in Congress, you know, I worked with Andy and worked with Frank Pallone because we believe that there is a floor beneath which no family should have to live. And housing is a right. And so in order to be able to let people know what's available to them, this is our way of, I believe, efficiently communicating and hopefully effectively communicating. I know that there's going to be a robust discussion today, and you all are going to make information available. I pray that the people who are going to sign on are blessed by your presentations and will be able to use the information that you give them so that they too are sheltered appropriately and adequately, and know that your work is so vitally important to our community, our district, our state, our country, but most importantly, to the individuals that are in need. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your compassion. Thank you for your commitment. And thanks for this opportunity to just speak for a few minutes. God bless.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Watson Coleman. Truly appreciate you jumping on to join us today. And we are going to jump into our presentations now. And it is my honor to introduce Justin Scheid, who is the New Jersey Field Office Director for the U.S. Housing and Urban Development. So Justin.
Thanks, Lynette. Great. Good morning, I'm Justin Scheid, New Jersey Field Office Director at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Thank you to Representative Watson Coleman, Kim, and Pallone, and many thanks to Lynette and Jael and their staff for hosting this important webinar and getting the word out about housing resources. Next slide. HUD is the federal agency with funding for housing and community development programs nationally. Our agency is committed to supporting underserved communities, ensuring access to and increasing production of affordable housing, promoting home ownership, and advancing sustainable communities. We have one office in New Jersey with teams from the Office of Fair Housing, a multifamily housing team which oversees 900 buildings across the state, and a public housing team which oversees the more than 100 public housing authorities in the state. Single family programs are run locally out of the Philadelphia Home Ownership Center, and we can always direct you there if you have an inquiry. I sit in the Office of Field Policy and Management, where we handle customer service inquiries from residents. We have a dedicated and professional staff with amazing expertise that respond to all customer inquiries. So those seeking assistance are always welcome to contact us at our phone number, leave a voicemail on our main number, or through our email inbox. Next slide. If you or someone you know is at risk of homelessness, we urge you to contact a homeless service organization known as a Continuum of Care, or COC. HUD funds groups of organizations, often run by a county, that provide access to shelter and resources. COCs are also provided funding for rapid rehousing, which provides short-term rental assistance and services to make sure you and your family do not become homeless. This slide has a list of all the county-led COCs in the 3rd, 6th, and 12th congressional districts, from up in Elizabeth and Union County down to Burlington and Ocean counties. Next slide. HUD rental housing assistance comes in a few different forms, and there are a couple of ways to apply. First, we have a portfolio of privately owned and managed buildings across the state with a HUD-funded contract to subsidize for affordability, known as multifamily housing. These buildings often have a contract where the subsidy is project-based, meaning the affordability lives with the unit rather than with the tenant. There are about 900 of these properties across the state within our portfolio, and some building units are reserved for elderly people and people with disabilities. I suggest you take a look at resources.hud.gov, which has a map application to show you properties in your area. You can apply for a unit if it's available or ask to be placed on that development's wait list. Then we also have more than 100 public housing authorities across the state that have their own portfolio of housing or provide housing choice vouchers, known as Section 8. To apply for public housing or a Section 8 voucher, you need to contact the housing authority directly. You'll hear from the state shortly, and many towns and counties have their own public housing authority. Often the application requires you to be placed on a wait list to obtain a voucher, so we recommend you apply to your local town, county, and state housing authority. Each public housing authority has their own application process. There are additional supports for veterans through the HUD VASH voucher program, which also provides supportive services through the VA medical centers. To apply for a HUD VASH voucher, you need to be referred through the VA medical center. Once again, the HUD Resources Locator provides a map-based tool to help you navigate your search. Next slide. Homeownership programs are operated out of HUD's Federal Housing Administration, or FHA, which ensures single-family mortgages and other properties. The HUD Home Ownership Center operates out of Philadelphia, as I mentioned, and they can assist you with information on obtaining an FHA-backed mortgage or finding out specifics about your mortgage and property. Also, select public housing authorities operate Section 8 to home ownership programs where your subsidy can go towards a down payment on a property, but not all PHAs participate. For home ownership and rental, we also suggest you contact a housing counseling agency. These are HUD-approved agencies that provide assistance to help you navigate your search, submit applications, and troubleshoot as necessary. A link is provided, and you can also find those housing counseling agencies on resources.hud.gov. Next slide. The National Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing due to race, color, national origin, religion, sex, which includes gender identity and sexual orientation, familial status, and disability. If you believe your rights may have been violated under these categories, you can submit a fair housing discrimination complaint to HUD to investigate. New Jersey, as a state, has additional rules. So depending on the situation, you might also want to file a complaint with the state and contact a legal services organization. Next slide. In summary, if you or someone you know is facing homelessness, please reach out to a continuum of care. The HUD resources locator at resources.hud.gov is a map-based website that can help you find local housing agencies, properties, and resources. The FHA Resource Center and the Philadelphia Home Ownership Center can assist homeowners, and HUD-approved housing counseling agencies can assist you with navigating these housing programs and directing you to the best solution. Next slide. Here's our contact info: 973-776-7200 and NJ Web Manager at HUD.gov. As the representatives mentioned, we understand the need is great. So if you have questions, concerns, or need direction, please reach out to HUD. Thank you. Let me turn it back to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Justin. Wonderful information. I just want to mention, we will be sending out a copy of all the PowerPoint slides when we do send out the webinar recording. And so you'll have all that contact information available to you. I also want to remind you that if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, you could put them in the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen, and we will be getting to as many as we can after all the panelists present. So you don't have to hold off asking your questions. So we'll now go to our next presenter, who is Janelle Winter, who is the Assistant Commissioner, Division of Housing and Community Resources for the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. Janelle?
Good morning, everyone. And I want to thank Lynette and Jael for organizing this for us. I want to thank our representatives for hosting us for this, and my fellow panelists, and of course, all of you for attending. I work at the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, where we administer a number of the state's housing, rental assistance, and utility assistance programs. We are one of the country's largest Section 8 housing choice voucher programs. We also operate housing production programs like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the National Housing Trust Fund, and other programs that actually build affordable housing for people. We also work on a number of neighborhood programs. We have our Office of Home Energy Assistance, which offers utility assistance and also assistance in areas such as home weatherization and lead remediation and abatement. So we have a number of programs that can address, all aspects of housing across the state. But I'm going to talk mostly today about a number of our rental assistance programs. And so we operate 3 major rental assistance programs every year in New Jersey. And through those programs, we house about 41,000 households annually. And our biggest program is the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. And I'm happy to say that right now we are accepting people into the lottery for the waiting list for that program. We are open for the lottery until this Friday at 5 p.m. You can go to our website at nj.gov/DCA and have a direct link to apply for that lottery. If you are more comfortable on the phone, if you have difficulty, applying for things over the online application, you can contact us at our hotline, which is 609-292-4080, and we'll send all these numbers out as well. But you can be assisted to apply over the phone as well if you need that assistance. And online, the application is available in many languages. And by putting in that pre-application before the deadline on Friday at 5, you can be considered in the lottery for the waiting list. And we'll be accepting 20,000 households onto the waiting list. And that's about the number of people we anticipate will serve over the next 3 to 5 years. So in addition to the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we also have the Supportive Housing Connection. And we serve about 11,000 households there. And that's a partnership we have with the New Jersey Department of Human Services. And so the Department of Human Services refers people in their programs for vouchers to us, and we administer their vouchers. And then our last major program is the State Rental Assistance Program. And that is a program very much like the Housing Choice Voucher Program, except it's state funded. We have about 4,500 households in that program. And earlier this year, we actually opened the waiting list and accepted about 4,000 people onto the waiting list for that program. And I'm happy to say that we've already started serving some people from that waiting list. So we are able to start helping them to use their vouchers and to pay their rent throughout the state. And so between those programs, we pay out about $33 million in rent to landlords on behalf of New Jersey families. In addition to those programs, our annual programs, we've also been able to provide a lot of assistance in the wake of COVID to people who may have been impacted by the pandemic. And so to date, through our COVID Emergency Assistance Rental Assistance Program, CVRAP, we've paid rental arrears and rent for more than 82,000 households. To do that, we've received more than $920 million in federal emergency rental assistance funds. And of those funds, more than $219 million were reallocated from other jurisdictions that weren't able to use them as quickly as we've been to help households. So we're really happy we've been able to get that additional assistance. And while we have dispersed the vast majority of these funds, we actually just got notice last week from US Treasury that they would be awarding us an additional $33 million to help additional households that are on that waiting list for CVRAP. So we're very happy about that, and we will continue to ask US Treasury to send us any money anyone else can't spend, and we will use it for New Jersey families. In addition, we've received about $500 million for the eviction prevention program. And that provides up to 2 years of rental assistance for households who've been impacted by COVID. And we've enrolled 30,000 households into that program. And they will receive assistance for up to 24 months of assistance until that's extinguished. So through all of those programs, we are serving a large number of people and helping them to pay their rent every month. And here's a little bit of information about our general rental assistance programs. And on the next slide, we have some information about some of our specialized programs. So Justin earlier spoke about some of the resources HUD has for veterans. And we administer more than 1,200 VASH vouchers that are specifically for veterans. In addition to that, we have what's called a preference on our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program for veterans. And what that means is that when veterans apply for the waiting list, they receive top consideration. And that is actually a law in New Jersey that says that they will receive top consideration. We also have received from HUD almost 1,000 emergency housing vouchers for homeless households. And there we are helping homeless households to access housing. In addition to these vouchers, we're providing them with security deposits and with landlord incentives to help them access units that they might not otherwise be able to access if they have poor credit, something like that. We also help households with our tenant-based rental assistance through home and with continuum of care vouchers. And the folks that we have helping us do this work out of 13 field offices in New Jersey. And we have more than 180 staff who are working on this. So we have a lot of folks who are working to help keep people housed. And some of the things that we're doing to help ensure that people stay housed are we've set our payment standards at 110% of HUD's fair market rents because we know the rents are high right now. We want to help people as much as possible. We fund 3 regional housing navigation community-based agencies and station 13 housing navigators in each of our field offices to build relationships with landlords and help us find units for people with vouchers. And for people who are homeless, people who are at risk of homelessness, we're providing security deposits to help them get into housing. We also have our Office of Eviction Prevention. And for people who are in danger of eviction, if an eviction has been filed against them, we have resource navigators. And we also fund some legal assistance to reach out to people to help them navigate that process, to access the resources they can, and to help them avoid eviction. And we also serve people who are homeless through our Office of Homelessness Prevention. And that office works really closely with those continuum of care groups that Justin mentioned earlier that are charged with addressing homelessness in every county. And for a lot of our homeless programs, the way to access those resources is through those local continuums of care. Each of those local continuums know best what their local communities need in terms of homelessness. So we work very closely with them, and we work with them to get referrals for our homelessness programs, which in addition to vouchers include short-term assistance with rapid rehousing, include short-term arrears assistance through our homelessness prevention program, and diversion activities through our homeless diversion nonprofit providers. And so through all of these ways, we are helping people access assistance to help them stay housed. And if you need information about any of these programs, you can always look at our website. That's the best way to find a lot of information about that. And then also our hotline at 609-292-4080. And they can connect you with the best person to assist you, whether that's someone in one of our field offices, whether it's those continuums of care, whether it is someone else who can assist. And while I just kind of shared some information about our rental assistance, I do want to share a bit of information about our utility assistance. We operate the state's low-income home energy assistance program, the USF, the Universal Service Fund, as well as the low-income household water assistance program. And these can all help people to pay their utility bills. And recently, through some of our COVID resources, we've dispersed more than $400 million for more than 288,000 households across the state to help them pay utility arrears. And the good news is we have additional funds to help people pay their ongoing bills. So if you need assistance in paying your heating bill, if you need assistance in paying your water bill, we encourage you to apply right now. And again, you can go to our website, or there's an even easier hotline to apply for utility assistance, and that is 211. NJ211 is our partner for this. And so by dialing them, they can connect you, help connect you in applying for these resources. And one last thing I want to mention about those utility assistance resources is that in the past 2 years, we've been able to raise the income limits to really help address arrears and ongoing utility needs for moderate income households. So there might be some people who are thinking, oh, I don't think I apply, even though I need assistance. I think my household might make a little too much money. And I really encourage you to check out the resources there, because those income limits have been raised because we know a lot of people are really feeling the pinch right now. And so you might be surprised to find out what you might be eligible for. So with that, I will close and just say thank you again to everyone for allowing me to share this information.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible amount of information, and so many programs you offer. And we, again, will send out that contact information. We'll send out that hotline number so people can access it afterwards. And now we're going to concentrate on veterans, who everybody's touched on already. But we are honored to be joined by Esther Chucarella, who is Acting Director of Veteran Services at New Jersey Department of Military and Veteran Affairs.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Esther. I just want to take the time to thank our representatives for putting this together and for being part of this, for us to be able to serve the community. Also for you, Lynette, and your staff, working so hard to provide this information to the community members that is very well needed. And also thank you to my panelists for being here and, doing this presentation. Very, very great presentation so far. I hope that the people who are joining are able to gain some knowledge and get some more information about these programs that are offered throughout the state. All right, so I have a few slides. I'm not going to read off the slides. I'm just going to speak a little bit about what we do. So our programs are mostly based. We want to make sure that our veterans are well taken care and making sure that they are receiving the benefits and care, including with housing within the community. So we just want to make sure that we are reaching out to our veterans, making sure that they understand what are those benefits that they are entitled to and that they are available for them. Next slide. So we do have, our programs are more focused on veterans that are going through either eviction or facing homelessness within our community. And two of the programs that we are very familiar and very proud to host is we have two veterans home. One is in the south and one is in the north. The information is here. We will share, like our panelists and Lynette and JL said, we were going to share this information if you have question about it. But one is in North Haven, which is in Glen Rock, and the south one is located in Winslow, New Jersey, in Camden County. Next. So our facility, and even working with the state, I just became aware, like working with the state after I was working with the state for about 8 years, I didn't know how well and well maintained the facility are. So here's just a picture about some of the things that are offered in the facilities. This one specifically is the picture for the North Haven home. And, you know, we are at capacity of 100 bed. Some of the rooms are self-contained. Then we have double beds. We also have a full kitchen with staff, so their meal comes within the building. There's some of the rooms have kitchenette inside their room. We have a courtyard, laundry, computer lab, laundry, a gym, which is very important to our members now, and then we have a game room. Next. In collaboration with what we do, so we use what is called SSBF, which is supportive service for veterans and family. What that means is we are working in partner with the VA in order for Veterans Affairs Healthcare, in order for the veteran to be able to use our services at the homes. So as a state here, our funds are coming from the SSBF program, which are nonprofits. So what it is when they come into the home, you know, we provide the help for not only the housing, but also any medication management, any financial management, and also applying for any VA benefits that are offered and that they are entitled to it. Next. Okay. And this is just a little bit of some of the what we have right now, which is, you know, 20% of our homeless populations are veteran, and, you know, from 68 different cities. So, no, a lot of the time we think that this can happen to us, but it does happen. And it's something that is very traumatic to not just our veteran, but to our community overall. So just for you to know, we have the services are here, and you know, it like, see, like 51 of individual homeless veterans have disabilities, so that whether it is mental health or substance abuse or anything like that affect also being causing to a great factor to facing homelessness. Next. Something that I say, so we are granted, we are granted by the VA, but also as of April of this year, because our program is a transition program. So as of April of this year, we are going to do emergency housing. So now it's not going to be that you need to be doing 2 years in our program as the transition does. But with emergency housing, anybody could come into the building, anybody who is at risk of homeless and apply for the services. Some of the great thing about our program is, and you have seen this a lot, where somebody goes to a shelter and they have to leave in the morning, come back in the afternoon. Our program is an all-day program, so the person can stay there. Also, the other great thing is that our program, you can stay there for up to 2 years. One of the great things from that is once you leave our program, we are making sure that you are set up with housing, your benefits that you are entitled to, whether it is Social Security, whether it's VA benefits. So we want to make sure that you do fool around within the community. We link you with services within the community that are needed. And the other big thing is to make sure that they are being registered with the VA healthcare in order for them to take care of their health, whether, you know, for whatever reason it is. So that's one of the great things with the programs that we offer, that we do a link around program, which is We link you with everything that it's available within the community for you to be able to, once you leave the shelter, once you leave our transition housing, you are able to function in the community on your own and with the support that is provided for you. This is just some of the things that we offer in our team that we have. We have a great clinical team. We have social workers on staff. There's 24/7. Our full service department. So the great thing about this is that we have employed a lot of the members from our transition home into our full service department because we host a kitchen in our building. So the meal comes from our building, and then we also provide meals for other areas within the Hunterdon County. Just a brief description. We have specialized in social services, vocational rehab. We provide psychosocial rehabilitation and nursing. And our treatment is completely individualized on that member. There's not a model that we all follow. It's based on the need of that person. And then we implement based on that. Some of the services that we offer, assessment for an individual service planning, holistic care management, discharge planning, and then homeless management information system. Next. Here's some of the other entities that we partner with, which is the Veterans Affairs, the New Jersey Parole Board, also the county members, any community agencies and associations, various veteran services organizations. We do also have, for my veterans in the panel, in the chat will know, we have what is called a veteran service officer on premise at the veteran home, and it's for the veteran service officer to provide those services to our veterans that are in the home. That is just, here's our website. If you ever would like to apply, it gives you all the information that it's needed here to apply for the services. There's a whole process that needs to be completed in order for you to come into the home. There's a lot of questions that needs to be asked, as we have many other programs that are going to be spoken about today. But the process is not impossible, and you will have somebody helping you through it. Okay, so this is the end of my slide. I just wanted to mention, I know it's like some of our like this home, it's very far from some of the areas that are, some of our veterans are local. So one of the things that is available with that is also that if the veteran needs transportation to be taken to the home because they are unable to make it there, we do provide that. We arrange for that to happen, to include whether it will be through the VA in Lyons, or we provide a shelter through Uber Bash. So it is not impossible. I know it's very difficult sometimes, but please reach out for help. We are here to help you in any way that we can. You just gotta ask for it. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Esther. Thanks for providing us information to help our veterans who are online and families. And I know a number of people have touched on this already, as far as the utility assistance that New Jersey offers. But I want to turn it over now to Maureen Clare, who is the supervisor of the Bureau of Energy Programs and Assistance Unit for the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, so she could give us more details about utility assistance in New Jersey. So Maureen?
Hi, everyone, and thank you to the Congressperson's office for inviting BP to participate in this wonderful panel. I don't see the slide yet to start. There we are. Thank you. So I work at the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, or BPU, in the Division of Customer Assistance. Next slide. And we are a state agency that regulates the publicly owned utilities in New Jersey. So gas, electric, water, sewer, and basic cable and telephone. And it's our mission to ensure safe, adequate, and proper services at reasonable rates to all members of the public. And BPU created a few programs to protect members of the public in need. And I'm going to talk about them today. Next slide. So the first program is the Winter Termination Program. This protects eligible residential electric, gas, water, and sewer customers of investor-owned utility companies from service disconnection during the winter months. So that's from November 15th to March 15th. And I just wanted to mention New Jersey Department of Community Affairs also has a WTP program that protects the utility customers that are not under our jurisdiction, so the municipal customers. Next slide. To be eligible for WTP, you can participate in any of these programs, but we also have a catch-all category for anyone who's unable to pay their utility bill due to circumstances beyond their control. So that could be anything that impacts household income, such as a loss of job, a death in the family, sickness. So this is a great program. Next slide. The requirements for WTP is that you enroll in a 12-month budget plan with your utility company and make good faith payments towards your budget during the heating season if you have the ability to do so. Electric and gas customers are usually required to pay up to 25% of their overdue balance as a condition of entering WTP, but that is a maximum that the utilities can request. This requirement does not apply to water and sewer customers. Next slide. Any disputes about your enrollment into WTP can be referred to the board. So you can call us if you're having any issues, and the utility cannot discontinue service to you while that is being reviewed by the board. Next slide. WTP customers who were disconnected prior to enrollment will have their service reconnected. And utilities may not request a security deposit or any additional payment during this period. And I wanted, to point out the utility customer bill of rights. The utility companies post this on their website and they send it out with their monthly utility bills, but you can also see it at this website on our page. Another program BPU created is the Universal Service Fund, or USF. And this provides a benefit, a credit of up to $180 per month on electric and gas bills. And the goal of the program is to reduce customer bills to an affordable percentage of income, in between 2 and 4% of income, up to the benefit caps. So this used to be a low income program, but due to the pandemic, the board raised the income limits for this program for a 2-year period, up to 400% of the federal poverty level. So for a household of 5, that's up to $129,880. So I encourage you that if you are within the income limits and are struggling to pay your bills, please apply for USF. And these higher income limits are in effect until September of this year. Next slide. To qualify for USF, you need to be within the income limits. Usually you need to pay more than that. You need to spend more on energy than that certain percentage of income, that 2 or 4%. But the board created a minimum $5 a month benefit for households that only meet the income requirements. That was another pandemic-related change to the program that we made to give people access to USF, which gets them into WTP, and also gives them access to Fresh Start energy debt forgiveness, which I'll talk about in a moment. And Janelle went over this a little bit earlier, but USF shares an application with the federal LIHEAP program. So customers can apply for both programs at the same time and get the maximum amount of benefits. Next slide. So how to apply? You can apply all different ways, online. You can call the statewide hotline, 211. All the typical ways. And if you're homebound, you can also request an appointment for a home visit. So that is a great service that is offered. And Fresh Start is a component of the USF program. that the board created to give USF participants an opportunity to wipe out old utility debts with their electric and gas companies prior to enrollment in USF. So how it works is that when you enroll into USF, any overdue balance you owe at that time is put into a separate account, a fresh start account by the utility company. And for the next 12 months, any month you pay just your current charges in full, a portion of that overdue balance is forgiven. So for example, if you owe $1,200 to PSE&G, for example, and you pay only your current bill, every month you're going to have $100 wiped off that pre-existing overdue balance. And there's no limit on this forgiveness. So if you owe $12,000, which it sounds unbelievable, but we have seen those bills, $1,000 a month would be forgiven. So this is a great opportunity. If you've accrued a large overdue balance due to the pandemic or economic struggles, please enroll in USF so that you can access this fresh start forgiveness. And if you get to the end of the 12-month fresh start period and you haven't achieved 100% forgiveness, let's say you paid 9 bills out of 12, you are automatically enrolled into a 3-month grace period by your utility company so that any payment they receive during that time goes towards those 12 months of bills so that you can earn 100% forgiveness on your bill. Next slide. To qualify for Fresh Start, you just need to be a USF participant and owe $60 or more in overdue balances at the time of enrollment. And the utility company sends you letters throughout your Fresh Start program enrollment period, just updating you on your progress in the program. Next slide. If you do not comply with the program by paying your current bill, at the end of the program, your Fresh Start balance is restored to your account as due. So it's really important to look at your bill, to keep on top of your bills and not let this opportunity pass you by. And you're not removed from Fresh Start due to non-payment, but your ability to earn forgiveness simply expires at the end of the 15-month period. Next slide. And Fresh Start traditionally is only offered to first-time USF participants, but due to the pandemic, the board opened it to any USF participant because they wanted to give people an opportunity to wipe out all those debts accrued during the pandemic and reestablish payment compliance with the utility companies. If you have questions about Fresh Start's run by your utility company, so you can reach out to them first. But if you have any issues that the utility company does not resolve, please reach out to the BPU. Next slide. And the last program I want to talk about is the Affordable Connectivity Program. This is a federal program run by the FCC that helps connect families and households struggling to afford internet service. The ACF provides up to $30 a month discount for broadband service and 75-month discount for households on qualifying tribal lands, and a one-time discount of up to $100 for a laptop, desktop computer, or tablet purchased through a participating provider if the household contributes more than $10 but less than $50 toward the purchase price. Next slide. And you're eligible for the ACP if you if your household is at 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, which is about $55,000 for a family of 4, or participates in these programs below. To enroll, you just go to affordableconnectivity.gov to submit an application, and you can contact your preferred participating provider to select a plan and have the discount applied to your bill. And the phone number for their support center, if you have any questions or need help or have a complaint, is right there. And that's all I have today. Thank you for listening. Oh, and here is our slide if you have any questions. But you could call BPU anytime. Our email address is there. If you have a complaint against your utility company, if you're in danger of disconnection, please reach out to us. And our customer assistance division will help you. And if you have questions about utility assistance, you can call the statewide hotline at 211, or you can email me, and my email address is right there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I know that our office refers to BPU and connects people up with your services a lot. So I appreciate you jumping on today. And I just want to remind people, we have one more wonderful speaker, and then we will open it up for your questions. So please feel free to continue to put your questions in the little question box at the bottom of your screen. But our next presenter is Michelle Lowe, who is the manager, Office of Program Operations, Department of Human Services, Division of Family Development. So take it away, Michelle. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks, Lynette. Thank you to both you and JL for putting this together. This has been some great information so far, so hopefully I can add to that. My office oversees all 21 county boards of social services, also known as county welfare agencies. And our housing programs, we have two different avenues for housing assistance. The first is emergency assistance. Emergency assistance is available to anyone who is on our Work First New Jersey programs and who has not exhausted that benefit, as there is a lifetime limit on that. If someone is not currently a recipient of our services, they can apply online. And that website is www.mynjhelps.org. I did not prepare any slides for this. I apologize, but I will send over a little cheat sheet with all of this information to JL and Lynette to send out when they send out the webinar. You can also apply for SNAP benefits on that same website. So I encourage anyone who needs to apply for our benefits to do all of that online. It locks in an application date and gets the process started. So our emergency assistance program is a temporary housing and shelter related assistance for individuals, again, who are on our Work First New Jersey programs or who are on SSI. So this program is supervised, as I said, by our office and administered by the county welfare agencies. We can provide rent, mortgage, and utility back payments, eviction-related costs, emergency shelter or emergency temporary housing, temporary rental assistance. We can provide transportation to search for permanent housing, temporary storage, moving expenses, security deposits for rent, and also utilities where applicable. Emergency assistance can also provide clothing and essential home furnishings in an emergency situation, and also food. And it's really to just bridge the gap between the application for SNAP and the actual receipt of SNAP, but that is available. That program, again, is an emergency temporary program. Our agency is not a housing agency, which is why there is time limits on our programs. It is meant to get individuals through an emergent situation. The temporary rental assistance, which is probably the biggest component of our emergency assistance program, provides temporary rent supplements to avoid eviction and to maintain permanent housing. This will cover the total cost of housing, which is rent plus utilities. And recipients do have a responsibility to contribute to that, and it's 30% of whatever their household income is. The family or the individual should be able to afford the rent before the TRA ends. So we do encourage and work with individuals to gain full-time employment so that they can sustain this permanent arrangement on their own. And I just want to reiterate, to be eligible for a TRA, temporary rental assistance, or any of our emergency assistance program, you have to be a recipient of our Work First New Jersey programs, which is temporary assistance for needy families, or general assistance, which is single adults or adult couples without children, or an SSI recipient. You must be able to show arrears via shutoff notice for your utilities or an eviction notice. And you must be homeless or in imminent danger of becoming homeless due to circumstances beyond your control. So now I'm going to shift to another program that our agency offers, which does not have the caveat that you have to be a Work First New Jersey recipient. This is open to any citizen of New Jersey, and it's called our Social Services for the Homeless program. This is administered by the Department of Human Services within your county. SHUSH is a county and community-based agency short-term safety net program, and it offers core services of food, emergency shelter, homeless prevention, such as back rent and utility payments, and case management services. This program can be accessed, like many of the programs discussed by my colleagues, by dialing 211. They have the information again for all 21 counties. They can help you locate the local process as well as the vendors that you would need to reach out to. To be eligible for this program, you have to be a New Jersey resident. Individuals and families who are ineligible for Work First New Jersey cash assistance due to income, or you've met your lifetime limit or citizenship status, may be eligible for this social services for the homeless program. Work First New Jersey and SSI recipients who may have exhausted their emergency assistance lifetime limit could be eligible for this program. And Work First New Jersey recipients who are serving a sanction or have lost their Work First New Jersey eligibility due to a sanction within the last 12 months are not eligible for these services. So if someone has not followed through on what they were supposed to for Work First New Jersey, they cannot apply for SHUSH. And we see a lot of applicants, so that we always add this into any presentation so that individuals know why those folks are not eligible for the social services for the homeless program. The other caveat with the social services for the homeless program, because it is short-term, it is limited to 4 months of assistance, is you must show that the applicant must show that the crisis will be resolved after that 4 months is over, and they will be able to afford their housing after that 4 months. So those are our programs in a nutshell. As I said, I will send Lynette and JL a little summary cheat sheet of these programs. The most important takeaway is the website for application, which again is www.mynjhelps.org. And then I know JL is going to also send out the contact information for all 21 boards of social services, along with their hours.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Appreciate you sharing those services with us. We're going to open it up now for our question and answer period. It's going to be sort of a panel discussion, so anybody can jump in if there's a question. And I just want to remind folks that joining our panel for questions and answers will be Malika Morris, who's the Deputy Director of the Department of Human Services in Burlington County. And Maura Sanders is the Chief Counsel for Legal Services of New Jersey. So if anybody has specific questions for them, please feel free to add that into the questions also. And our question and answer portion today will be led by the two offices that helped put this all together for us and really worked hard to get all these resources to you. And it's going to be led by JL Davis, who's the Outreach Director for Congressman Frank Pallone, and Delara Bostepi, who is the Deputy Director of Communications for the Office of Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. So JL and Delara, I'll turn it over to you now to lead the Q&A section.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Delara Bostepi. I'm with Congresswoman Watson Coleman's office. This is just a general reminder that our offices are here for you to connect you to any of these resources that you need today. I want to start off with a general question. I want to, if everyone on the panel could kind of go through the resources that they have. We get this question a lot. It's where do I start? So if somebody is at risk of being homeless, at risk of defaulting on their utility or bills, we get a lot of calls that we don't know exactly where to put them. So if there's a specific condition that would make it easier for somebody to reach your office and get through a program there, if everyone could briefly go over what's the first step? What do I apply for first? Where do I start if I'm at risk? If you want, we can go in the order that we spoke today, so we can turn it over to Justin at HUD.
Sure, thanks, Delara. So first, if anyone is at risk of homelessness, immediately call one of those continuums of care, depending on the county in which you live. For Burlington, I know Malika's on the line and she oversees the continuum of care there. And we'll make sure that that list gets out. If it's just other conditions that you're trying to navigate, please contact a housing counseling agency. There's a list of approved HUD counseling agencies across the state. And then the state also funds their own navigators as well. But we would really encourage you going to a housing counseling agency.
Thanks, Justin. I'm going to turn it over to Janelle.
So one place that you can start is on DCA's website. We have a tool called DC Aid, and it's linked from the front page. And what you can do is it asks you a few questions about where you live, how many people are in your family, how much money you make. And from there, it can refer you to programs that you might be eligible for, along with the contact information for those programs. So that's one way of just kind of checking to see what might be available for you. As we mentioned before, for utility assistance, 211 is our hotline. So we encourage you to use that hotline. You can also call for all issues that might relate to DCA, our customer service line, which is 609-292-4080.
Thanks, Janelle. I wanted to turn over to Esther for if we wanted to talk about veterans who might have kind of what's their first call.
I think Esther might have had to step away, Delara.
Okay, Maureen, if you wanted to speak to the BPU side of this.
Sure. So if you're in danger of having your utility services disconnected, we usually tell customers to call their utility company first. They want to hear from you and hear what your situation is. And they're usually very generous about setting up payment plans. And of course, call the BPU as well. I posted our hotline number there. And 211, as Janelle mentioned, if you want to apply for utility assistance programs to cover your overdue balance, that's the best way to go because they can connect you with the local agencies that can come to your home or set up an appointment or send you whatever resources you need.
Thank you, Maureen. Michelle, if you had something to add.
Yeah, so as I stated, the best place to start is at our web application website, mynjhelps.org. But during business hours, you should contact your local Board of Social Services if you are experiencing homelessness. And after hours, you would call 211.
Thanks, Michelle. We have a bunch of more questions coming in. We're still taking them live, so everyone who's on right now, you can continue to submit them. We are looking at them. We do have a few more coming in. I'm just going through them right now. Go ahead.
Delara, did you want me to pop in with the question?
Go ahead. I'll take the next one.
All right, sounds good. So as Lynette said, I'm JL Davis. I'm Outreach Director for Congressman Frank Pallone. And I wanted to, so we get a lot of questions related to timing, right? There was a question in the chat regarding the wait list for DCA housing vouchers. So I don't know if Janelle, you could speak to that. A lot of people apply and have to wait for some extensive time frame. So I think giving people an idea of what they can expect when they apply would be helpful.
Sure. So for DCA's two major programs, the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program and the State Rental Assistance Program, both operate on a waitlist basis. And so when the wait list for each program, which are separate, is exhausted, we reopen the waiting list and we use a lottery to select people for the waiting list because unfortunately, we receive many more applications than we will be able to serve. And when we select for the lottery to put a certain number of people on the waiting list, we select the number of people we think will be able to serve in about 3 to 5 years. And so we recently opened the SRAP waiting list, the State Rental Assistance Program waiting list, and placed 4,000 people on that waiting list. Some people, those who are at the top of the waiting list, are being served right now. We have issued vouchers and have been for people at the top of that waiting list. The last time we opened the SRAP waiting list was about 3 years ago. So we are, that prediction of how long it will take us to serve people has been pretty much on target. Obviously, it depends on funding, et cetera. For the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, as I mentioned, we are right now in the process of accepting pre-applications for the lottery. So we encourage anyone who thinks they might need this assistance and be eligible to submit that application so you can be considered by the deadline of Friday at 5. We will be selecting through a lottery 20,000 households for that waiting list. We anticipate that for folks who are selected and are at the top of that selection, we will be issuing vouchers immediately. So for the people at the top of the waiting list, they will receive information from us and will be able to receive vouchers immediately. And then as we are able, we will continue to serve others on that waiting list. Again, for Section 8, I think it was just about 3 years since we last reopened. So we seem to be on target there as well for that time period. So that's what we're experiencing in terms of that. The other place where people might be experiencing the wait list is if they've applied for the CVRAP, the COVID rental assistance program. And there we have a waiting list that is not closed. People can still apply, but it depends on funding. When we first opened, when we first received our federal funding, we had a lot of funding. We're able to serve people pretty quickly as they applied. However, we've exhausted the majority of that funding. And so now for CVRAP, people are on the waiting list, but we're only able to take new people off the waiting list as we receive additional funding from the federal government. And in that area, there is not a date by which we receive funding. We are notified when U.S. Treasury is reallocating funding from other jurisdictions. So as I mentioned, last week we received notice that we'd receive another $33 million for that program. That will enable us to select probably about 2,500 to 3,000 households from that waiting list and serve them. But I couldn't tell you beyond that when we'd be able to select more people, because I don't know when or if we'll receive more money for that program.
Awesome. Thanks, Janelle. Okay, so I'm going to turn our next question to Maura Sanders from Legal Services of New Jersey. So we talked a lot about the resources that are available to you to avoid homelessness and to keep up with paying your rent and utilities, but sometimes there are situations where that's not possible and people go into eviction proceedings. So Maura, if you could just speak to what should someone do if they are in danger of eviction and how your office can assist.
Sure. The first thing I would do is tell everyone that you've got some great resources and reiterate the other information that was provided here about where to call and try to get help with both utilities, with your rent, with all of that. If you do come to the point where you are facing eviction, whether it's for rent or for other reasons, though, you can always contact and reach out to Legal Services. We have offices in every county in the state and a statewide hotline to connect for assistance. And that number, it's just 888-LSNJ-LAW. It will be included in your materials as well. Again, it's 888-LSNJ-LAW. We can, at a minimum, provide with some basic advice and information, point you to resources that we have online. There's a pretty comprehensive tenants' rights manual that walks you through that process, but hopefully can do more than provide advice and connect you with an attorney or a social worker within our program that can help access those resources if you've been denied, help point you to other resources that might be available, and just help you through the process of eviction, whether it's negotiating for more time, working out a potential payment plan. Lots of tenants actually do have defenses. It may be that the amounts claimed aren't really what's due. And help you get through that process, know what your rights are, know how much time you're going to have, and hopefully help you avoid that eviction in the first place.
Perfect. Thanks for explaining that, Maura. Delara, did you want to take the next one?
Yeah, thank you. I do have another question here. We've talked a lot about federal and state programs, but I also want to turn it over to our county rep. So we have actually on the line Malika Morris, Deputy Director of the Department of Human Services at Burlington County. Keep in mind, if you live in a different county, that there are counterparts and programs that actually reach you as well. So make sure you look into that before reaching out to your local Department of Human Services. But Malika, if you want to talk a little bit about at the county level, what resources may be available that are a little bit different than what everyone's already talked about?
Actually, a lot of the resources are very, very, very similar. What I will say that may be different to offer, and again, it varies by county, is I've heard questions regarding utility assistance, eviction prevention, and where to start. And I do believe that websites are great resources, but we try to cater to all age groups and all abilities. So if you are an individual who needs in-person interaction or to speak with a live individual, my recommendation is always going to be to call the Burlington County Housing Hub. It would serve the same purpose almost as what Janelle said when she said you can go to DC Aid and you'll find out there what you're eligible for. When you call the Housing Hub, you do a needs-based screening and you're provided with the resources that you may need, including applications for live heat. You're screened for social services for the homeless, like Michelle mentioned earlier, if you're not board eligible. So that would be a great resource. And then, as Michelle also stated, whereas you would call 211 if you're looking for where to start, in Burlington County, you would call 211 after 4:30. Between 8:30 and 4:30, you're calling the Burlington County Housing Hub, and that phone number is 609-265-5185. And again, this isn't just for utility assistance and water assistance, but this can be for security deposit, back rent, eviction prevention. We're going to do a full needs-based screening for you.
Thanks, Malika. I actually have one follow-up, just so that people are clear on the process. A lot of times, when I was mentioning the state or federal aid, sometimes your first call is a call, or you have to go online first. You have to see if you're eligible. As far as with the county, I know a lot of our constituents, especially at our district offices, they like to walk in, they like to get the paper copy, they want to talk to someone face to face. Is that possible? Is that viable during business hours? Is that something people should be encouraged to do during a time of crisis?
Yes, we do accept walk-ins. We're located at 795 Wood Lane Road. I'd say the beauty of Burlington County and how our services work. Usually when I do presentations, I explain the Board of Social Services or the County Welfare Agency, Human Services, and 211 as a triangle that's in constant communication. So we're often screening you for eligibility and referring you. However, our Human Services building also hosts our Board of Social Services. So we're located in the same building. If you were to walk up and you're screened and you're not eligible for the board, then they would make a referral to the Housing Hub and you're able to walk around, enter, and be seen by someone. There's also beauty in a lot of our agencies using HIMIS, the Homeless Management Information System. So when we do that, you don't have to go through the same process of answering your household size, your household income, what caused your hardship, and those things, because we can just duplicate the client into our system and program.
And I just want to piggyback on what Malika's saying. The boards of social services are open to the public in all 21 counties. So if someone does choose to walk in rather than, and I get it, sometimes I like to see the person face to face as well, they are open to the public.
Thank you so much. JL, did you want to take the next one?
Sure. So we've had a couple of questions in the Q&A related to housing assistance for those who are undocumented. So we've discussed various programs here today. Maybe you all could just quickly touch on whether those who are undocumented are eligible for the programs that you've mentioned. So let's start with Maura.
Sure. So many of the programs that we're talking about, you have to be a citizen or what's considered to be a qualified eligible immigrant. There are very few emergency services and assistance that are available to someone who's undocumented. We want to encourage families, though, to reach out if they are in crisis or have an issue so that we can try and identify other kinds of resources that are available. If you have a situation where you have, for example, citizen children in a family, those are again situations where we want you to reach out and we can try and help determine what kinds of programs and services that someone might be eligible for. But mostly what we're talking about when we're talking about government assistance, there's very little that would be actually available.
Thanks, Mara. Janelle, how about you?
I'd echo what Mara said. I think that in our CV wrap programs, we do not consider immigration status. Also, through some of our homelessness diversion programs, we have funding that doesn't require us to consider that status either. And folks are referred into that through our local continuums of care. So we would encourage people, if they are at risk in that way, to go through the continuum of care's coordinated entry process, where they might be referred to those programs so they can be helped.
Thanks, Janelle. Justin, did you want to touch on that?
Sure. I mean, echoing Janelle, what she said, but also, if people do come through the asylum or refugee process, HUD works very closely with other agencies, including Department of Homeland Security's Office of Refugee Resettlement, to try to make sure that those people that are coming through the system in that way are properly housed. But otherwise, federal law would prohibit Section 8 or similar programs to be offered to somebody that doesn't have documentation.
Thanks, Justin. Maureen.
So the federal LIHEAP and USF program requires at least one Social Security card per household to receive benefits. However, there is another program that I didn't have time to speak on today. It's a much smaller program called the PAGE program. So if there's a household with all undocumented persons, they can apply to the PAGE program. They can call 211 to ask for information about that. And they provide up to $700 for gas and electric. So I would encourage them to reach out to them.
Awesome, thanks. Michelle, did you want to touch on that?
Sure. So the program that I spoke about, the Social Services for the Homeless program, there is a state funding component of that program in which status does not factor into. So undocumented individuals may qualify for that program. And also, Justin mentioned the ORR. We work very closely with ORR. So individuals who are coming here seeking asylum, refugees, are often eligible for some of our programs. We work with Janelle's office as well as Malika. So as you guys can see, we are all in contact with each other at some point. If someone comes to my office and aren't eligible, calls my office and they aren't eligible for our programs, I certainly will refer them if I feel they are eligible for DCA's programs or over to the Housing Hub in Burlington. So our offices all do work closely together in some way, shape, or form.
Great, thank you. So I guess the sentiment here is that those who are undocumented aren't eligible for every program, but there are some, and that they should certainly reach out to the agencies that have provided information and see what they may qualify for, especially if they have US citizen children. So thank you all. Talara, did you want to take the next one? And we're coming close to our end time here, so we're going to try to get one, maybe two more questions in.
Thanks, Jael. I have one more question. This is also a little bit general, so it's for the room. We get varying questions on specific programs, just for specific groups of people. So we have people reaching out with young children. We have people who are reaching out who are just turning 18 this year, who may be at risk. We also have seniors that not necessarily veterans. So there's those pockets of groups who are wondering if there are specific programs or benefits that they might want to look out for, if there's anything that any of your agencies want to highlight for them specifically, for those parents or those seniors who are looking for resources. It's not specific, so whoever, if there's anything that your program does, feel free to jump in.
So I'll just speak from DCA. We have a number of our programs have specific set-asides for various groups of people. So for instance, in the SRAP program, we have a specific set aside of vouchers for seniors, a specific, waiting list for that group, as well as for people who are disabled. In our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, we have what's called a preference or a higher priority for households with a member who has a disability as well as for veterans, for people who are homeless, and for households where someone is a survivor of domestic violence. So we have those specific projects. I also want to say that we fund a variety of housing projects where there are project-based vouchers. Justin mentioned earlier project-based vouchers that attach to units in projects. So when you move into that unit, the voucher makes that unit more affordable to you. And very often those projects are targeted to seniors or to people with disabilities or veterans. And so one way to find some of those are, Justin mentioned, a map, some information they have on HUD's website that can help you find that. I also want to refer you to the Housing Resource Center, which is a resource in New Jersey where you can search for those type of buildings and projects by location, by population, et cetera. And that's the Housing Resource Center. If you Google NJ Housing Resource Center, it'll pop right up for you. And you can search there and find projects that might have specific buildings, specific units for a variety of different populations. Also wanted to mention that through the HRC, you can also find access to projects that are funded by the low-income housing tax credit, which are projects that are built with financing from our colleague, our sister agency, the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency. And that can be housing not just for people who are low income, but for some projects for people who are of moderate income as well, that can provide subsidized housing. So just as we mentioned with some of the utility programs, how there are resources not just for low, but also for moderate income, you may be able to find some housing assistance in terms of specific apartment projects through that resource as well.
And I can just reiterate that public housing authorities often have their family unit set-asides and their senior housing as well. And then our multifamily locator would kind of describe, as Janelle mentioned, the units that are specific and the developments that are specifically available for seniors and for families. And then the only other thing to add is that on the mortgage side, there are particular products out there through FHA specifically for senior households, and then also for first-time home buyers. So if you're looking on the home buyer side, I encourage you to reach out to us or go directly to the FHA Home Ownership Center for some of that information.
And I just wanted to mention the Lifeline Utility Assistance Program is run by the Department of Human Services. It's for seniors and the disabled. It's a $225 lump sum credit. And you apply with the NJ Save application or the Pharmaceutical Assistance to the Asian Disabled application.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's coming up on 11 o'clock. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We had a whole number of excellent questions, so apologize if we couldn't get to your question today, but in the follow-up materials that we send out, we will look at your questions and provide answers wherever we can. So we will follow up with you on the questions you asked that we didn't get to. So before we wrap up, I just want to give my colleagues a chance to give out their office number in case anybody from the congressional districts would like to get in touch. I work for Congressman Andy Kim. Our telephone number is 858-703-2700. And I'll turn it over to JL to talk about Representative Pallone and the contacts.
Thanks, Lynette, and thanks everyone for sharing today. So as Lynette stated, all of our congressional offices are available to help if you are having issues related to housing or other agencies. So we have 2 offices in New Jersey. Our Middlesex office is in New Brunswick. The phone number is 732-249-8892. And then for our Monmouth County residents, the phone number is 732-571-1140. Delara?
Thanks, JL. If you need help in Congressional District 12 for Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman's district, you can stop by at 850 Bear Tavern Road in Ewing. You can also call us at 609-883-0026. And as everyone has stated before, feel free to call if you don't know who to call. We do have these resources that we can give out to you and give out to you to give to your communities as well. So this is something that we're doing so we can share these resources and that eventually the community leaders can share these resources. We want everyone to have access to them. So if you forget who you're trying to contact, or if you're just trying to reach out, call one of our offices and we'll do our best to connect you to who we think can help.
Well, again, thank you, JL and Delara, for putting this together with me. Huge thank you to our panelists. Really appreciate your expertise and your time and giving out such amazing resources. I hope this was really helpful for everyone who joined us today, and it gives you an idea of where to start, who to call, what to do if you're in need of these resources. So with that, we will wrap it up. We'll be sending out additional information, and I truly hope you all have a wonderful day. So thanks for joining. Bye-bye.